Hey everyone, how you going? Welcome to another episode. It's not another episode. We're live actually. So I've changed colours around a little bit. Let me know what you think. So I probably should have adjusted a couple of things because it looks pretty dark in here. I'm going to be honest. I have not been organised today at all. It's been a very very busy week, and then a lot of things have happened this afternoon as well. The Russia-Ukraine stuff. So we're going to go over that a little bit more later. Just 1 second. There we go. Now you can actually see my face. Is that a little bit better? Family Guy, how you going, mate? So today is going to be a little bit different. So normally what we do is we go through what happened this week. We look at the markets. And then we'll go through Wall Street Journal, things like that, and have a look at what's in there. Today, obviously, with the Russia-Ukraine stuff going on, there's a lot of noise, so it's going to be hard to do that, and it's going to be a big distraction. So we are going to go into it a little bit, but I want to try and go from a facts point of view. I don't want to go from a political point of view because I don't really understand the situation enough to the point where I feel comfortable. Where I feel comfortable forming a firm political point of view on what's going on. So we're not going to go into that side of it. Now, what happened this week? Obviously, we had Russia has begun invading Ukraine, or that's how it's being described. It's pretty clear now that going forward, this raises the chances of a recession coming substantially. However, we'll go through something a little bit later as well that might actually suggest differently. Lucid Motors recalled potentially 50+% of their delivered vehicles this week. This was due to a supplier incorrectly stalling a part. So I did a video on this yesterday, so if you wanted more information on that, I suggest you go check that out. Now, first thing I wanted to go over was Webull. So we will do that in 2 seconds. So let's head over here now. So if we have a look at Webull, we're going to have a look at, we've got an update here. So we're going to have a look at some of the, we're going to have a look at the markets. Now, one thing that I want everyone to keep in mind here is this Russia-Ukraine stuff really didn't escalate until after the market closed. So we're not going to get a really good idea of what tomorrow morning's going to look like. But maybe you could look at futures if you wanted a bit more of an indication. But obviously tensions had grown, and it was pretty clear that something was going to happen. It just wasn't a guarantee yet. So we've got stocks here at a 52-week high. I don't know any of these. A lot of them look like oil companies, which is pretty common during times like this. We've got what have we got near low? Don't know any of these either. That's a good thing. Let's say that. If we go over to tops, what hit the top gainers today? Once again, don't know any of these at all. Top losers, come on, I'm bound to know some of these. We've got Rent a Car, Skills Inc. Nextdoor, what is this? Nextdoor Holdings. I wonder if that's that Nextdoor website, that social media website. I'm not sure on that. Earnings calls we've got coming up this week. I don't know any of these. Have we got any splits? I know that Google split's coming very eventually. Don't know any of those either. Okay. If we go to our watch list, these are some of the ones that I regularly watch. We've got Lemonade Inc. I did pull my investment out of that. It's down 20% in the pre-market. That's insane. So it's gone down quite a lot as of recent times. We've got Peloton. We've got the S&P 500 down 1.77%. We've got EVgo here. EVgo's been doing really, really strong through this, almost bear market. Airbnb's done pretty well as well, but even they're down 9.2% at the moment. Airbnb's obviously a very international business, so they are going to be affected in some way by this. We've got ARK Innovation ETF here. So that's obviously Kathy Wood's ETF. Obviously, it holds a lot of small cap and tech stocks, which have been getting battered around pretty heavily. Corey, welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. And Tesla down 7%. Tesla's down to $764 a share. So I wasn't planning on buying anything this week, but it seems a little bit irresistible if I'm being honest here. Next thing I wanted to have a look at is, let's check out coin market cap. So how are we going today, boys? Tesla down, yeah, I know. Oh yeah, what beer am I drinking? That's the whole point of this show, isn't it? Probably should have gone over that. So the beer that I am drinking today is Furphy. Yeah, I'm drinking Furphy. I believe it's a Victorian beer. If correct me if I'm wrong. I do like it. It's a nice beer. It's not a super special beer. It's just a nice beer. But you get around a lot of pubs here in Melbourne. And I don't think it's always been popular. I think it's really risen over the last sort of 5 years. But it's definitely a much more popular drink now. Hello everyone who has tuned in. So we're going to go over here. We're going to check it. Oh, I am on the wrong video here. So I've got so much going on because I'm trying to add value to this show. But we are getting there. We are getting there. So we head over here. Now we have cryptocurrency. So let's go over the crypto markets. So we have Bitcoin down 18% this week, 9% or almost 10% for the last 24 hours. Ethereum down 13%, which is very low. I believe Bitcoin and potentially Ethereum as well now, they are trading below their 200-day averages. Obviously, Tether's USD based. We've got BNB down 21% for the week, 12% for the day. XRP down 13% and 22% Solana. So everything's really, really getting battered around here. Avalanche even down 17%. Avalanche was doing well for a little while. Before the week that we've had, I think they were up around 35% for I think it was for the last 3 weeks they were up like 33% or something like that. But they've obviously gone down again pretty quick. Dogecoin down. Dogecoin was 11% market cap. It's now 12%. Avalanche has taken their place there, and then the Shiba coin's still going on here. So they've done well to keep that going. So next we have. I wanted to go over this. Now this is an Investopedia article. It was written about a month ago. Here we go. Oh, it was updated apparently January 31st. So basically, this guy has done this article, woman I should say, sorry, Deborah, and basically she has done some research on how the modern stock market is affected by war, and she's made a couple of comparisons here, which I thought would be really interesting to go through. So she's written here, lately, Russia has been a saber rattling and building up its military presence on its border with Ukraine, a sign that Putin may invade soon. Obviously, this has in fact happened, and drawing the US and NATO into war. There is also the ongoing possibility of an armed conflict between the US allies and Iran. Obviously, NATO and the US have not gone into war yet, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. So far, the US has spent an estimated $6.4 trillion on wars post 9/11, a sizable piece of the GDP. But how do wars and economy and the stock? How do wars affect the economy and the stock markets? Security experts are weighing in, and only time will tell. But investing experts are sending out reminders that past wars didn't push US equities lower long term. So we have here basically markets often shrug it off. So LPL Finance Research notes that stocks have largely shrugged off past geopolitical conflicts. As serious as this escalation is, previous experiences have indicated that it is unlikely to have material impact on the US economic fundamentals or corporate profits. LPL Financial Chief Investment Strategist John Lynch said, "We would not be sellers of stocks into weakness related to this event, given stocks have weathered heightened geopolitical tensions in the past." And they've done a graph here. Basically, they've gone over a couple of market shock events and geopolitical events, and they've basically, listed the event date here. What did it lose on that day or the previous day if it happened overnight? And then how long did it take to reach a bottom from that point? And then also how long it took to recover. So recover would be basically back to where it was, and then the following day it should obviously be up, right? So we have quite a few different ones here. We have the US tax that were on the September 11. And on that day, we had a 4.9% drop. Obviously, one thing that you got to remember is that happened during the day. So the next day, there would have been an increase in this. So there was it took 11 days to reach a bottom and 31 days for recovery. And then we have things like the Kennedy, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then we had North Korean invades South Korea. So a lot of different comparisons here over many different year spans. But what it shows is that recovery is generally a lot quicker than most people would predict. Obviously, we have the Pearl Harbor attack, which was a specific US attack. So it did take a lot longer for that recovery to hit. But even 307 days is within a year. A lot of people, you could actually go back to recessions, like for example the 2007-2008 recession that America had, and for a lot of those markets it took upwards of 5 to 8 years before we actually saw a recovery, depending on in certain markets. So this shows that sometimes recessions can actually be worse than these market shock events. From the start of World War II in 1939 until the end of late 1945, the Dow was up a total of 50%, more than 7% per year. So during the two worst wars in modern history, the US stock market was up a combined 115%. Ben Carlson, Director of Institutional Asset Management. In an article about counterintuitive market outcomes, the relationship between geopolitical crises and market outcomes isn't as simple as it seems. When markets can suffer, history tells us that periods of uncertainty like we're seeing now usually when stocks suffer the most. In 2015, researchers at the Swiss Finance Institute looked at the US military conflicts after World War II and found that in cases when there is a pre-war phase, an increase in the war likelihood tends to decrease stock prices, but the ultimate outbreak of war increases. However, in cases of when war starts as a surprise, the outbreak of war decreases stock prices. They called this phenomenon the war puzzle, and said that there was no clear explanation why stocks increase significantly once war breaks out after prelude. So obviously, if we want to draw from the comparison that we have now, there was definitely a pre-war, not a pre-war phase, but a pre-invasion phase, and what's going on now. There was a lot of tension building up to the moment, and now we've hit the day of that moment. Similarly, Mark and Brewster, the president of Brewster Capital Management, studied the period from 1926 through to July 2013 and found that stock market volatility was actually lower during periods of war. Intuitively, one would expect that uncertainty of geopolitical environment to spill over into stock market. However, that has not been the case except during the Gulf War when volatility was rough in the line of historical average, he said. So we've got a little graph here. Basically, they've got the return risk, or the return and the risk, if I'm reading that right. So from 1926 to 2013, we've got World War II, and then all wars combined here. So we've got the Vietnam War, for example. So we saw a return of 6.4% in large cap stocks, small cap stocks. So small cap stocks, before looking at this, I would have thought small caps are going to get hit first, because in recessions, that's quite often what happens when investors flee to those safer stocks, or the companies that are much more profitable and have those moats around them that small cap stocks do not. Long-term bonds, so obviously they decrease in return, and this can quite often be due to inflation. And then you have 5-year notes, long-term credit, cash and inflation. So cash and inflation here. So at the moment, inflation is actually higher than what these numbers are here, or these percentages are here, and that is due to COVID-19 and supply chain crisis, or at least that's how we understand it. Pardon me. In terms of the Iran conflict, however, investors have muted reaction to the headlines. If 2019 taught us anything, it's that you had to try try as best as possible to keep your process and not get caught up in the headlines, said strategist technical analyst Todd Sohn to the Washington Post. And in a sad way, I wonder if we've become used to it. I wonder if the market has learned to discount these events. It is a very true reality. I know if you go on any Wall Street Bets Reddit thread, they're all saying buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. And this might actually be, the new normal. And it does seem that certain events in history, ones that are more predictable, are quite often already priced into the markets. Part of the reason for the calm may lie in the changing structure of global oil markets and how the US economy has become less vulnerable to energy price swings, said JP Morgan Fund's chief global strategist David Kelly in a note. Part of the reason may be purely psychological. Today's investors have seen the stock market recover from both 9/11 and the Great Financial Crisis. So the Great Financial Crisis, correct me if I'm wrong, was the one in the Great Financial Crisis. Can't remember if that was the one in the 90s or if that was the 2008 crisis. Arguably the greatest geopolitical and economic shocks of our time. Maybe I should know that one. This makes it easier for investors to shrug off other events. A conflict with Russia can also cause volatile oil markets, as Russia is a key producer of crude oil and natural gas, with pipelines feeding many parts of Europe. If Russia were to shut off the spigot or have its oil infrastructure damaged, it could lead to higher energy prices. Interruptions to the ports around the Black and Baltic Seas could also create even bigger shipping headaches and lead to a food inflation as grains and other staples remain stuck at sea. I was watching the news this afternoon and I did notice that a couple of the shipping carriers that go through between the US and some of those top European areas across to Asia normally fly over Russia, and they pay Russia a small fee. But obviously now Russia and Ukraine have no fly zones, and these companies have actually said that it is unprofitable for them to go around, and it is going to affect their bottom line, unfortunately. Bottom line. Over the last few years, markets have been conditioned to not overreact to political and geopolitical shocks for two reasons. First, the belief that there would be no significant subsequent intensification of the initial shock. And second, that central banks stood ready and able to repress financial volatility, said Muhammad Ali El-Irian, the chief economic advisor at Allianz and in Bloomberg column. But he warned that investors buying the dip should also use a selective overall strategy. This includes emphasizing up in quality trades that are anchored by robust balance sheets and high cash flow generation, resisting the strong temptation for large-scale shifts away from US assets in favor of international investments. So these are these larger cap stocks that I was talking about that investors quite often run to. So it's interesting that they talk about the psychology, and then they say, and then somebody else in another column basically says, hey, we should go to these larger cap stocks, which would imply that they're selling their smaller cap stocks, right? And reducing exposure into inherently less liquid market segments that have experienced beneficial spillovers from extraordinary central bank stimulus and general reach for yield and returns. So one example of that could be, if there was a housing market crash, obviously it's very hard to sell a house when markets are going down, or history has shown, and obviously the price goes down. That can quite often, if you owe more to the bank than what you can actually sell the house for, that puts you in a uncomfortable position. Next, we were going to... Okay. There was another thing that I wanted to quickly show you. So I found this recently. So basically, it was 5 of the 5 times stocks bottomed just before an invasion. So this thing here, I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger here, just so that you can see it. I'm going to cover my face, but I would prefer that you saw it. So basically 5 times that 5 stocks bottomed before invasion. So they have the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and then the Iraq War, Crimson Crisis, and the Afghanistan War there, pardon me. And basically what this implies is that these markets bottomed out before they went back up, except for in the case of the Afghanistan War, obviously they went down after that. But these stocks bottomed out, or the stock market bottomed out. This is the S&P 500, I believe, from the Bloomberg. But basically that it went up. So the best time to buy, implying from these graphs, is actually just before, just before a crisis, and this shows the 18 months after these crises. So, what else do we have to go over here? Oh, we should probably go over comments, hey? That would be a... haven't done that yet. So what comments have we got going on here today? Thanks to everyone for jumping on as well. I really appreciate it. Last week was pretty quiet. I think we had like 1 or 2 people on, so it's good to see a few more people on today. On the Furphy DWs, yes, I am. I quite enjoy it. I'm actually on my 3rd one for the night, so I think I've been working too hard this week, if I must be honest. Let's have a look here. You have to ignore the sample here. Do you like Opeth? Yes, I do. In fact, I do like Opeth. Certainly do. What beer am I drinking? Yes, obviously that's Furphy there. It's a local brew apparently. Thank you, Franklin Family Guy. I'm drinking cordial, but I'm drinking it out of an Asahi glass, so it looks like beer. Good on you. Good on you. Buy Furphy stock. The chocolate to AUD conversion rate is insane at the moment. Fair enough. Ultimative wag. Yes, I did say ultimative during that. That's a bit of a running joke between a couple of my friends there. Backpack. Yes, we all love the backpack. Let's be honest. So if we go. Gotta get a bit smoother of this, hey? What else do we want? I'll have a look at Wall Street. No, we'll have a look at Wall Street Journal next week. One thing that I did want to have a quick look over was just to see if there's any more news here. I don't actually think that a whole lot of information has in fact come out. No, that's finished. So let's have a look over here. Transition over here.
Explosions this morning that really was a shock to many here. People in Kyiv didn't think even to the last minute that actually Russia is going to go so far as assaulting Kyiv, the capital city. After all, also Vladimir Putin pointed out in this surprising televised address this morning that this is, quote, a military operation in eastern Ukraine. But it turns out there are various reports that explosions are heard in many parts of the country, shellings and reports of people being injured and killed. Now, the problem is we cannot verify this information, so I'm not even going to talk about any numbers at this point, because as this escalation has entered a new phase, there are various accusations between Russian forces.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for jumping in and watching the live stream. Appreciate that, man.
Military information. What is actually currently happening on the ground? I can only tell you, in fact, what I've been experiencing this morning.
Yes, it is DW News.
And that was a
I don't own this.
Critical
this is actually a very
people here
popular
packing up, trying to leave by car.
international
Also, we are hearing that there are
news
lots of people lined up at gasoline stations trying to fill up on gas, trying to leave to neighboring countries, Slovakia, Poland, towards the west. But we also hear at this point, if you're trying to leave Kyiv, it's in fact almost impossible to go towards the west. So much traffic has built up. Again, there are also people who are just staying put and trying to inform themselves, actually, where is the nearest shelter when those sirens are going to go off again, likely as they did this morning, siren warning, or in fact telling people this is the time that you should look for your closest shelter.
And these are similar reports that we're getting, Funny, from our other correspondents in the country, also from family and friends, personal messages I've been getting from different parts of the country, central parts of the country, into Dnipro, for example, waking up to these explosions. Could you tell us, the Ukrainian president announced he was introducing martial law. What does that entail?
Martial law is usually introduced in times of crisis that could be a natural disaster situation of conflict or a war. So what is happening is basically the natural way of things as they proceed in any democratic country, to say so, to implement martial law, by that also implying to the citizens here that this is not the time that they should venture out, but they should actually stay put, stay at home, stay inside, look for the closest shelter position, and just remain also calm, because this is actually the concern here, that people will start to panic even more. And then what? How can you secure critical infrastructure that is needed to protect actually citizens and to protect people from a increasing escalation? So
so a lot of information has come out about basically what has happened today, and then I think there was talks of the Ukraine president actually said, you basically said that everyone should get armed and be prepared to protect their city and their towns. So obviously very heightened sense of awareness of what's going on over there, and then obviously they've had quite a few attacks that have happened there. There's also numbers going around about casualties. It's hard to tell what's accurate though, because from what I've seen, the numbers are so different depending on where you look, and I don't think that's intentional at all. I think the information is just so hard to get accurately coming over live. We've got some more information here.
Interesting to see if the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian army can hold off Russia to some degree.
Dan DeLuce, Clint Watts, Admiral James Stavridis, I am grateful to all of you for your time this morning. I know it's early. It has been a long night. It will be a long day. Thank you all, and thank you all for watching as we continue our special coverage right here on MSNBC of the crisis in Ukraine. Morning Joe starts right now.
In fact, the spokesperson of his presidency also made clear there is no panic in the presidency. Speaking to people on the ground, they wonder when somebody says there is
in that region. This is something else. This is something different, and we wait to see what it actually means on the ground.
The escalation started to enter a new level, to maintain that this is a democratic, independent, sovereign country, and they're not going to give up on any land. They will not have any foreign entity to take over here and rule this country. Now, we are not so far yet, but there is, of course, concern here on the ground, especially because so many things have happened over the course of the past couple of days that were highly unlikely, that at this point, everything is likely.
Fanny, thank you very much for your reporting. The story itself is moving so fast. Let's have a listen in now to what the Ukrainian president has been saying.
Dear Ukrainians, this morning President Putin announced a special military operation in the Donbas. Russia carried out strikes on our military infrastructure, on our border guards. Explosions were heard in many cities of Ukraine. We are introducing martial law throughout the state. I have had a conversation with President Biden. The US is gathering international support. Today we need each of you to be calm. If possible, stay at home, please. We are working. The army is working. The entire security and defense sector of Ukraine is working. I, the National Security and Defense Council, the government, will be in touch. Soon I will be in touch again. Don't panic. We are strong. We are ready for everything and we will defeat anyone because we are Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine.
Ukrainian president trying to keep the calm there. Fanny, back to you. Tell us more about the developments happening.
So obviously a lot going on at the moment. I don't want to go too far into the news of what's happened, but obviously there has been conflict already. They haven't just marched in or anything. There is active conflict going on. So hopefully it doesn't escalate to catastrophic levels. I think it would be naive to say it's not going to escalate at all, but hopefully there is an opportunity for Russia to withdraw or something like that, so that we don't end up with casualties of civilians who are just really trying to get on with their lives. I think it's fair to say. So I wanted to just leave it there. I didn't want to go a whole lot further with that. Because I don't, I don't really understand it from a political point of view. But I do appreciate everyone jumping on today. It's been great to have, quite a few people on. So hopefully you jump on next week. If you did enjoy the live stream and you haven't already, please make sure that you subscribe so that you're ready for next week. So normally we do it around 9 o'clock. I didn't realize for some reason I thought it was 9:30. So I did schedule tonight's for 9:30. But we should, let's stick with 9:30 again next week. But we'll see how it goes. If it's a little bit too late for everyone, let me know in the comments if you think it is. Then we'll schedule for 9 o'clock. But obviously you can always watch the replay. So really appreciate jumping onto this. Daddy Putin, don't pull out, fam. Thanks for jumping in, Corey. Really appreciate that. And freaking Family Guy. Everyone have a lovely week. Make sure that you subscribe so you can see there's new videos that are going to come out this week. This week I've actually released on average around 2 videos per day. Yesterday was only 1, but on average 2 videos per day. So I'm going to try and keep that up. So we talk stocks, we talk crypto, we talk finance, and we are going to reflect a little bit on what's going on in Ukraine, more from a stocks and market point of view or economics point of view. But yeah, we will touch on that as an on need basis. So thanks for jumping on, guys. I'll catch you next week.